Our guest in this segment is the Secretary of State in West Virginia, Kris Warner. He joins us via telephone. Kris, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. I want Jonathan on my basketball team. We'll take you and Matt on. How's that?
Kris, I'm in. I think we got him.
Kris, how tall are you?
Good. I'm 6'4".
Oh, yeah.
You and Bodwell together. You're grabbing all the rebounds.
We don't need to jump. And that what I've always said is I want to play the over 50 basketball. I want to get into some kind of a league because back then everybody could jump and I couldn't. At this age, no one can jump. It evens things out.
I'm 270 pounds. There's no jumping here, brother.
Maybe we should switch to football. You're the tackle on the football team for us, Kris. How's that?
I was.
Where'd you go to high school, Kris?
GW High School in Charleston.
And
then I finished up my senior year over at Capitol Page School in D.C.
Oh, very nice. Well, that's a good education there, sir. It's election day. Primaries, I should say, that's probably the city elections.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are how many municipalities in the state that are conducting elections today?
There's 77 taking place today. I'm in north central West Virginia right now in Harrison County. I think I'll be doing compliance visits on probably 7 or 8 communities in Harrison and Marion County. I know over your way you've got Harpers Ferry and Bath. I think Harpers Ferry has all 3 races, mayor, recorder, and city council members. In Bath, I think it's just a contested council member race there.
And you only get a compliance visit if it's a contested race, correct?
Yeah, we've just we've got the smallest office of all the constitutional offices in state government, so we're taking our folks and spreading far and wide, covering every one of the contested races today.
All right. So, if you were to estimate how many are contested of the ones that are up there, about what percentage are contested? Any guess?
I wouldn't. It would be nothing more than a guess. So okay. I'm not going to come off half cocked on that one.
Mike Queen sent that text that said most, but not all, of your municipalities are hosting elections, so they have contested races. So I'll assume that's more than half.
Yeah. The thing that's important though is some of these small communities that might not have a contested race. State code says that if they don't have 20 people vote in the municipal election, that community is, entity is to be dissolved. Not may be dissolved, it is to be dissolved. So it's still important to get out and vote, even though you're happy with the representation you have. If you're in a municipality that has an election that might not have contested races, we still urge people to get out and vote.
Is this the last year of separate municipal elections, Kris?
No. Actually, the legislature allowed up until 2032. So there's plenty of time. There's several communities in West Virginia that have already combined their elections, municipal elections with the general election year. But communities have all the way up until 2032 to accomplish that task.
Doesn't it end up saving the municipalities money not having a separate election and sort of give a lot more people a chance to cast their vote and voice their opinion? Because I know when an election, you see the numbers like when we have them here in Martinsburg, and the numbers are tiny compared to the regular election.
6.5%.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows. And you talk to people, and they're like, oh, I didn't know there was an election.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It does save a considerable amount of money, and all these budgets are tight, so it saves money. But I guess it's a matter of, I guess some places they don't want a lot of turnout. But if we're all about turnout and more people being involved in the process, it's definitely best to combine these elections and save the dollars.
Matt Miller.
Kris, help me understand a little bit. And when it comes to, I'm hearing you talk about if a small municipality doesn't end up with 20 votes, that entity is supposed to be dissolved. And that kind of got my mind going towards, I see signs now and again when you drive through a particular area, there's a name of that area or town, but it says unincorporated on the sign. So what's the difference between that kind of incorporated or unincorporated town, and how does that impact whether they hold elections or not?
That I'm guessing at this on an unincorporated town. It's still a community. It's still known by that name. They just don't have a mayor and a town recorder and city council members.
So therefore, no need for elections.
No officers.
Yeah,
no officers.
They can't have an election. We've found in some of these small towns that they can't dissolve until they pay off the debt. Quite frankly, to the public service district. If they're providing water or whatever, and they have a system in place. So it's sad, but some of these communities have outlived their life. Folks have moved, to areas of higher population, and we see it down in southern West Virginia. It's just coal mining town, and the coal mine's no longer there, and it's time to move on, or somebody start the rebuilding process.
Yeah, I've got friends with relatives down in Paden City. And Paden City barely exists anymore. I guess the high school just closed, and their water system, and it's just, it was a boom down there, and now it's faded fast.
Yep, when the school goes, things are done. It deteriorates even faster. I got to tell you though, on an uplifting note, yesterday I was at Rhododendron Girls State.
Yes.
And Elkins, and then Boys State was taking place at Jackson Mill. There were over 230 men known as citizens when they get to Boys State. They're going through their, how government operates, running for office. They elect a governor and a legislature, members of the Senate, House of Delegates, all of the elected offices. And I tell you what, it's inspirational to be there. I had the opportunity to ask them how many of them thought things needed to change in West Virginia, both at Boys State and Girls State, and it was almost the same. 90% raised their hands. They have ideas about what needs to change about West Virginia, and they're ready to tackle the problems facing us. And it was just great to be in front of almost 450 campers at those two different Boys State and Rhododendron's Girls State.
What were some of the ideas, Kris?
They were talking about just things that need to change in their community. They recognize that these municipal elections that we're talking about today affect their daily lives, and I think we're all interested in who's running for president, who's the next governor. But they recognize these municipal races are races that they can get involved with. I had the opportunity to talk to them about, Caleb Hanna, the youngest black legislator ever elected. He did that at the age of 19. And then Sarah Blair from the Eastern Panhandle, was elected at the age of 17 and started her service, turned 18 just before January 1st when she took office. And they're interested in, city council races. So that's exciting to see.
And those are some of the best kids we have in West Virginia that end up at Boys and Girls State. Now we just have to figure out a way to have enough opportunities to keep that brain power in the state so we can get some good changes,
Yeah, I had the opportunity to work with the Economic Development Authority for the last 4 years under Governor Justice, and we were in a position, I would call it, of buying jobs to get companies to locate in West Virginia. I hope now, and I think we did what we needed to do. There were some great companies, CMC Metals there in the Eastern Panhandle, and there's Nucor, Berkshire Hathaway, TIMET, throughout the state that we were able to help and attract to West Virginia. But I hope we now invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure can't leave us, and that's going to be important whether we're rebuilding some of these older communities we've had a chance to talk about, or expand on what we already have in some of our larger communities in West Virginia.
Well, I always find it funny when I hear people complaining on social media about, we gave this big company a tax break or that big company a tax break. They don't understand. Well, what we're doing is buying jobs. We're bringing jobs into the state that will bring in revenue for a long time, not just a short-term tax break.
You're exactly right. Let me mention one other thing, and it's probably the biggest misunderstanding, and I see legislators, quite frankly, that sometimes don't understand the fine details. These companies that we brought in and have offered dollars to, don't think for a minute that we just gave that money to them and they get to do with it whatever they want. We have very detailed, hundreds of pages contracts that say that you have to employ this many people by year 3, and if not, you pay this money back to the state of West Virginia. So it's some people call them grants. Those are really forgivable loans, meaning that if you comply with the terms of the agreement and bring in the number of jobs you say you're going to bring in, then that does, you don't have to, there's a waiver, if you will. You don't have to pay that money back to the state of West Virginia. And trust me, we've done the math. The work, it's well worth our while to invest in companies like that. If not, they're responsible for paying that money back. And in addition to that, we hold collateral. It's not just a matter of, this company goes out of business and they can't pay the bills and they go bankrupt. We have collateral. So the State Economic Development Authority is a lender of last resort, if you will, and many times is used to help attract companies to West Virginia.
How much is your office involved in any of those type of negotiations as the office in the state where small businesses and so forth, file and get licensure and so forth? Big businesses have to do the same?
Let me just say that I was speaking from the Economic Development Authority aspect there on the details of those forgivable loans. But as the Secretary of State, we register every one of the new businesses that start and operate in West Virginia. We currently have, on average, about 1,200 new businesses that register on a monthly basis. And we do that from our 3 hubs, if you will, the West Virginia One-Stop Business Hub, and one is located right there in Martinsburg.
So your goal in your office is recording and then keeping track of those businesses, not necessarily the negotiations, as you were talking about, that economic development handles.
You're right, but we register and then they file annual reports with us. We make that easier and easier each year. We now have over 99% of our businesses in West Virginia are filing their annual reports, and it's easy to pull up in just a couple of clicks and see what your last annual report looked like, and to be able to file your current annual report. But in the Secretary of State's office, we're excited about being able to be a resource and bring everything, quite frankly, that I've learned over the last 8 years at USDA Rural Development and the Economic Development Authority. We're cross-training our workers, not employing any new workers, but cross-training our workers as business specialists to be able to offer help and assistance and point people in the right direction. For example, if they need additional financing to grow that business or expand the business or start the business, our business specialists now are able to point to the difference in between what the Appalachian Regional Commission might do, the Economic Development Authority, or USDA Rural Development, or the Small Business Association.
Where are we, would you say, as a state when it comes to making it easy for a small business to get started. Do we still have a ways to go in kind of taking out some of the complication, or do you feel like we're at a really good spot right now?
Oh, I think we're at a really good spot for ease and convenience of starting a new business. I know we just had a lawyer there, quite frankly, in the Eastern Panhandle that does business in Virginia and helps companies get started. And he thought maybe the process was easier there. But when we dug into it and really investigated that situation, you're able to do everything. The whole idea of the one-stop is to take care of anything you might need to do with the division of labor, the treasury, tax and revenue. Everything is in one location. Where if they are not physically located in our one-stop, you've got an easy access to those other entities in state government, where in other states you've got to go to 2 or 3 different locations before you have done everything you need to do to start a new business. So we're very pleased. We're always working to find ways of how we can do more things online. In fact, we now have the ability to if someone wants to set up a meeting with one of our business specialists, they can say, I want to schedule for next Thursday at noon when I've got time off of work for a half an hour, and they have an appointment with a specific business specialist to answer any and all their questions when it's time to either register or file their annual report. They have the ability to share a screen, and we can sit and point to the exact spot on the form that they need to go to answer their question and make it as easy as possible.
I got to tell you, Kris, I have called into you guys a number of times with questions and things, and your people are really knowledgeable and really helpful. I appreciate it. And we've worked with some of the Workforce West Virginia programs through the years, and we've worked directly with the local representatives for Workforce. And they do a great job, and they're cool. I mean, they are there to help. They're not. They don't act like bureaucrats. They act like like consultants.
We should point out John owns his own business, Kris. That's why he's calling.
Yeah, I own an insurance agency here locally.
We appreciate the compliment and know that again we do that with the smallest staff of all those agencies in state government.
Why is that, Kris? Why do you have the smallest staff?
I don't know. And, it's I can tell you this. We generate all of the income necessary to run our office except for about $800,000. So it's a small budget of about $8 million a year, and we raise over $7.2 million of that in fees. So we pay for ourselves for the most part. But we seem to be the agency that gets, I don't want to say dumped on, but anytime the legislature needs something administered and it doesn't fit neatly and squarely into another agency, they come to the Secretary of State's office, and there's a reputation here for getting the job done for the legislature, and we're proud to be able to be in that position.
You'd think at your height they'd give you a bigger staff,
Maybe we'll work on that.
So, but in a state concerned about voter security, right? Elimination of voter fraud, making sure that everybody who's on the voter rolls is actually a resident of the state and qualified to vote, it would stand to reason that shorting that budget goes against what the party believes in, Kris.
I think I would describe us as lean and efficient and representing the people we have in the state. We've continued to lose population, every year since 1956, except for 2 years during the Justice administration. The last 2 years, we'd like to think it has something to do with the investments made, the partnering that was done through the Economic Development Authority. But when we grow our population, if it's necessary, we'll grow government to make sure we continue to have safe, secure, fair, and honest elections.
Very good, sir. And what does a person need to bring with them to vote in West Virginia?
Well, in this municipal election, this will be the last election that you can still use I think there's 17 different forms of identification, including bank statements and, utility bills. But photo ID passed in the last legislative session. So in the next general election, you'll need to bring a passport, a military ID, or a West Virginia driver's license, a government identification with a picture. But that's always the safest, even in the municipal election, is to bring a photo ID to the poll.
So next year when we talk to you ahead of midterm elections, that will be the law.
It'll be the law, and we're going to go back to the legislature and see if we can identify on those 7,000 or 8,000 non-citizens that have West Virginia driver's licenses that we either get non-voter or non-citizen clearly imprinted across the bottom of the photo. But that's one that still needs to, we need to have that added on. We had to negotiate, if you will, in this last legislative session to get photo ID through. But we have to train up about 8,500 poll workers working with our county clerks, and those 8,500 poll workers need to be able to look at an ID and see clearly if they're a non-voter.
Kris, on that note, we've got to go because we are out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you for yours, sir.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Secretary of State Kris Warner.